Namaste. Welcome. I'm Katy Appleton. I'm joined with Elvira here. We're going to be doing a smorgasbord of crow, a crow buffet, let's say, a tutorial on crow. So crow pose, Bakasana, and Pajva Bakasana, side crow. So short and sweet and to the point. And so we're going to be playing with crow pose first. So it can be a bit of what I call in England a Marmite pose, which is a kind of love-hate relationship with regards to these poses. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So I've found some really top tips to help people in crow pose and Pajva Bakasana, side crow. So I'd love to share those with you through mine and Elvira's body. So first of all, one of the top tips that I can offer you in crow pose is sometimes you do need props to stand on and side crow. So we'll look at those in a moment. But mainly there's a few steps and kramas to crow pose, which I'm just going to give you a brief demo of, and then I can teach it through Elvira's body. So with props or no props, so if you find that you're a little fearful of this pose, sometimes it can really help you to be on props. And you can come from a standing position to the floor, or you can start on the floor. One of the magical ingredients of this is this little sit bone squeeze that can help just ignite the pelvic floor in the pose. So as you come down into the shape here, squeeze around the sit bones. You don't want to be kind of like collapsed and hanging here. It doesn't have to be ferocious, but a little bit of a squeeze around that area. Then bring the arms forwards. That's the next krama. The krama after that, so I'm kind of marking it right now, although potentially we will find it. Bring the hands back. Common mistake is the hands come too close towards the feet or these blocks. So hands back, shoulders width apart, and then a squeeze here. So this is the piece that people tend to miss out in crow pose. They tend to like bowl on forwards, and then they feel very heavy in the space of this pose. So what I'd like you to do is squeeze here, and then lift the chest up, which is kind of counter, it feels like, but it's really useful. So the chest goes up. You can see I've risen onto the balls of my feet a little bit more. I'm kind of high with these props as well. And my hands aren't fully onto the floor just yet. I'm going to find them on the floor when I get there. And then I'm going to imagine that there's a magical high bar here that I've got to go over. So I want to lift up to go over. So squeezing in, lifting up to go over. And then inside of this shape, I'm going to press from my upper body, so my outer shoulders into my hands. I'm going to squeeze around my sit bones, and I'm going to bring my heart forwards. What tends to happen is people go up, they go over, and then they go down. So you don't want to do that because the floor is hard. So squeeze the legs in, lift up with the heart. Imagine that little high bar that you're going over, up to go over, and then squeeze a little bit around the sit bones. Squeeze and press the hands down into the floor, and then eventually the feet can get light and engage and lift up. Good. So some of you will enjoy using props. I'm sure for many of you, you don't need them. So feel free, Elvira, I'll teach you. So there are many ways to do this pose. You can totally come from standing, but for right now, let's just lean the hands forwards. Be on your props if you need to. Lengthen them super far forwards, that's it. And then draw the arm bones back towards the body. So you're getting quite high up into the upper arm for me. And then before you go forwards for me, Elvira, bring the arms into the outside of the legs. Bring the legs to the outside of the arms. Good, hug in a little bit. And then we're going to lift the sternum up, first of all, if you remember. So lift the sternum up, rise up onto the balls of the feet a bit more, and then go over that magical bar, up to go over. Good, and then inside of that shape, lean into the hands, press the shoulders down into the floor, and if you've got a strong practice, then the feet come off quite quick. If not, you can come onto the toenails and stay in the pose, and just simply breathe there. Just stay in the pose and breathe on the toenails or on the balls of the feet, but pressing the shoulders down into the floor, maintaining that, and then eventually you'll feel a lightness starting to happen. So squeeze around the sit bones, and then eventually the feet come off. Wonderful, my friend. Thank you very much. Good. Just go upside down for a brief moment. So I would say as you come back down into the shape on the kneeling position, the main top tips that I can give you in crow pose is that you want to be on top of the pose, that you don't want your hands to be too close to your feet inside the shape, and that when you're coming forward, you need to go up first. Go up a little bit first and then go up to go over. Remember that golden bar? Elvira came into it quite quickly, so many of you won't get your feet off the floor. So keep pressing the hands into the floor, even if your toenails are on the floor or your balls of the feet are on the floor, and stay there and say, right, I'm going to stay here for 3 rounds of breath, even though it's intense. Breathe in, breathe out 1, breathe in, breathe out 2, breathe in, breathe out 3, because you start to cultivate the integrity the body needs for this pose, because it does take practice. And in that, you can build the love of it, potentially, and let go of the marmite of it, if you know what I mean. So we're going to come into the second part of this tutorial, which is Pajva Bakasana, side crow. Elvira loves to do it and can do it with the one arm floating. You can totally do it with another krama, which is a step down from that, I would say, of bringing the elbow into the side of the hip. I would say one of the ways to teach this pose primarily is just like we were doing here. We're going to bring the arms across, shoulders width apart. You need to really hug that arm in, whether it's floating or not. And again, that same squeeze and lift up to go over, rather than just dive bombing. If you lose that up to go over, it becomes a real difficult pose to maintain. And the other thing is for many people, a little tiptoe of the feet to the side. So I'll just give you a quick flashcard demo of that. So you've come into the shape, possibly from a sort of revolved Utkatasana twist, and then bringing the hands down to the floor here. So you'll note that I'm really needing to get that left arm or right arm right over the side of my legs. That can be a real, difficulty to begin with. So that could be your first krama of trying to get that over. Once that's been achieved, note that I've got my arm, then my hand can come flat to the floor, in line with the shoulder. And then my other hand can come flat to the floor, shoulders width apart, hugging that arm in to engage those muscles underneath the armpits. So again, I'm going to squeeze around the sit bones. I'm going to lift up to go over, and I'm going to bring my elbow to my leg so I can chat a bit more into this shape. Otherwise, I might burst. Lift up to go over, and then you're going to tiptoe the feet, whether you're floating or not, to the side, and then lift up. So that little tick, 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 tick can be really helpful for some people to get into side crow. So Elvira, feel free. Coming into, again, a standing position, or even, exactly. So let's try Utkatasana to begin with. Breathing in and then bringing that left arm across the body. Doesn't matter, left arm probably, yes, that's it. And then come all the way down to sort of squat. And then most likely you'll want to sort of change your knee angle a little bit, just so for comfort levels. So you'll note then that her arm is right over here, over the leg. That's it. The elbow bends, the other hand shoulders width apart. And then again, she's going to squeeze around the sit bones, lift up to go over. And then I'm going to get her to tick her feet over here. And then start to look a little bit that way and then lean into the body. Good. And then continue to breathe here. And again, eventually, if you keep hugging that floating arm in, you'll be able to not need it onto the hip. Continuing to breathe, energize the feet. Wonderful. And then place the feet down to the floor. Good. Excellent. Clearly, I would love for you to do it on the other side. So let's try it again on the other side. You can stay low, taking that right arm over the left leg. Come it right over. So sometimes it helps me when I'm in this shape here to kind of place my hand on the thigh to help sort of almost get a bit more purchase on that leg. Good. And then taking the hand to the floor. So again, remembering that up to go over is really important. The little tiptoe of the feet across can be really helpful. And then hug that left arm in, either to the floating support or elbow to your hip. Continue to breathe here. Good. It's a pretty strong pose, but it's totally available to some of you guys, that's for sure. Bring the feet to the floor. Woohoo! Crow buffet. Thanks very much, Elvira. Good. Just keep trying, honestly. It's one of those poses that you just keep doing it, and eventually you'll find it. Good. There's some top tips in there for you. Bless you. Namaste.